गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Amrutanubhav, OV number, chapter 3, OV number 10, and yesterday we were seeing, last week, when one comes to discover one's essential nature, which is in and through all limitations, that is one's identity with pure consciousness, then the limitations will no more trouble the person. This is the state where individuality is at the lower ebb. In this manner, ignorance or avidya has subsided. As long as we keep thinking that we are inside this body, till then what is being told here will not be understood. Today in meditation we said center without a circumference. So what is the circumference that you are thinking of? Your circumference is this shape that you are, and that has limited you. Your acceptance that I am only this much of this shape, of this form, and consciousness is in this form, inside this form. That is the limitation, and you have to break through this. And the only way we can break through, or breakthrough will happen, will happen when we consciously contemplate that the consciousness that I am is the substratum, is the common denominator, is, as he says here, is in and through all the limitations. It is the eminent reality. I am immanent in and through all limitations, not only this form but all forms. And we have to keep repeating that again and again, because so many decades we have been repeating and been unconsciously thinking I am only this body. And meditation means thinking of the consciousness within this body. That is only half the journey. How does one transcend the limitations of the four planes of consciousness and arrive at yatha bodha, the correct knowledge? How does one arrive at the correct knowledge? In fact, you have never become divorced from the correct knowledge. We have never gone away from the correct knowledge. The pure consciousness is the correct knowledge. We are never. Then what has happened? On top of that, as if we have imagined the incorrect knowledge. And what is that incorrect knowledge? Knowledge through limitations is incorrect knowledge. So drop the limitations. Don't be affected. Don't accept yourself as only this body. Don't accept yourself as the seer, hearer, toucher, feeler, thinker, taster, knower, experiencer, born, going to die, healthy or diseased, knowing or not knowing. Get out of all that. Oh, that will be like a zombie situation. I don't know anything. Yes, better be that way. If your goal is to be without limitations as you are, and to be that principle which is all knowledge, then you have to initially, very rare people are there that at click it and it's over because of past sadhana that they have done in their lives. But for us, initially we come to recognize that we put our attention on the self, and then recognizing that this self is all that there is in and through all the limitations. That is the process. First within, and then Brahman is everywhere. When you are on within, then it is meditation. When it is everywhere, it is Sahaja Samadhi. How does one transcend the limitations of the four planes of consciousness? So this correct knowledge is our natural state. Remember this. We have accepted ourselves to be incomplete. Therefore, we are seeking. And what is that incompleteness that we have accepted ourselves as? Again, I am repeating, I know that I am only this body. And we don't even stay there. Again, as Panchadashi says, we have accepted ourselves as the virtual reality, Gaunatma, or we have accepted ourselves as the Mithyatma. Mithyatma is the Jivatma, is the Mithyatma. There is nothing called Jiva, but it yet appears. That is Mithya. Why? Consciousness expressing through. Now what I am going to say be consciousness expressing through non-existing form is Jivatma. Then what do you mean by there is no form? No, form is only an imagination, only a projection. See? Then what is not a projection? The pure consciousness is not a projection. When we accept ourselves as that pure consciousness in and through all our experiences, then there is a possibility that consciously the correct knowledge will click. Otherwise, we are only living at the empirical knowledge level, that is, knowledge through some means, knowledge through senses, knowledge through thoughts, knowledge through concepts, knowledge through ideas, knowledge through imaginations. So, what is correct knowledge? Which is as it is. And that we truly are. That is what we are essentially. Now for this, now Swamiji, this is not given in the verse, but Swamiji has given a sadhana here. And what is that? Beginning with the waking state of consciousness, acceptance of the world as it is the first step. First step is accept the world as it is. What do you mean by accept the world as it is? That our mind must not indulge in wishing the world should be like this or should not be like this. What do you mean? Disease has come, pandemic is going on, so be it. It is. When has it not happened? Every 100 years they say something happens. So it's we have found ourselves in that in that 100 years, and it is happening to us. If you ask your grandparents, they also went through a pandemic. Wars are going on, hunger is there, famine is there, floods are there. If you ask your grandparents, not parents, grandparents, they also went through the same thing. So when has it not happened? It has always happened. But then unnecessary clutter in our mind with regards to the world. World is everything other than the pure consciousness. World is that which is coming and going, the waking dream and the absence of the two. So it is as it is. Just like we do not give too much importance to the dream after we wake up, don't give importance to this waking while you are in this waking world. Accept it as it is. No comments. If there are no comments and you accept it as it is, then whatever the prarabdha is of this body, that will happen. But you will not desire anything and you will not run away from anything in this life. You will accept. Acceptance of everything as it is brings about contentment. Contentment does not mean that you will not respond to a stimuli. If hunger is there, oh, it is as it is. No, you will go and eat, but without agitation, without desire, without giving yourself too many options. Whatever is available, eat. Because in that creation, in that world, this body is also part of that world. So if body is there, hunger will be there. Accept it. You don't work too much, so worry too much about hunger. If hunger is there, you go and eat it. If thirst is there, you go and drink. Problem comes, issue comes, then what should I eat? Like children, mummy makes pasta with pasta Napoli with tomato sauce. I was in someone's house because she knows that he likes pasta Napoli, pasta with tomato sauce, going to school early in the morning. And then he came, after shower he came, he looked at the pasta with Napoli. Oh, I don't want to take this. I thought you were going to give me pasta with white sauce. So whatever is not available, that he wants. This is, in other words, we are like that. We want options. We want a buffet. And we have got used to that buffet. We are running only after what our likes and dislikes are. Stop. Accept everything as it is. This is the first step. For this step, our Shastras give Yama Niyama. For this, our Shastras give Shama Dhamma. Shama is control of your mind, Dhamma is control of your senses. Yama is interacting with the world in such a manner that you do not disturb it by a thought, word and deed, and do not get disturbed by thought, word and deed of any person or being in this creation. That is Yama. When you do that, automatically the next step comes of Niyama. Then your attention comes to you, because now you are not disturbed by the world, accepting the world as it is. Then what's the next step? My mind is still disturbed. Who is disturbing? I am disturbing my own mind. Then you become, Niyama means discipline. Then you start living in a disciplined manner. Every moment of your existence in a 24-hour period is accounted for. That is the paddhati of the Sanatana Dharma. It's a lifestyle. It's not a weekend spirituality. It is 24/7, 365 days a year from 24 hours a day. You are living the spiritual life, meaning you are living a disciplined life. That is Niyam. Every opportunity is taken to remember the divine. The moment you get up, कराग्रे वसते लक्ष्मी करमूले सरस्वती करमूले करमध्ये tu govinda prabhate karadarsanam. The moment you get out of the bed, before you touch the earth, prithvi tvaya dhrita loka. The moment you take shower, Gange Chayamane Chaiva Godavari Saraswati, you are remembering the expression of divinity in every experience that is coming to you, every interaction that is coming to you. This is niyam. By this method, likes and dislikes subside. When we accept everything as it is, then we do not live in this world to satisfy our desires, because desire is only of the world. So desire is of what we like. If we have accepted the world as it is, then okay, ठीक है. Then you will not run away from dislike. I don't like this person. नहीं, ठीक है, ऐसी है दुनिया, ऐसी है. The world is like this only. How many people will I run away from? And in the end, after I run away from everyone and I go to Himalayas, there, who will I run away? I want to run away from myself. How can I run away from myself? See, I dislike my body. I am the pure consciousness. Where will you run? You are, see, accepting everything as it is, and what the impact of the likes and dislikes, raga, dvesh. Why does rag dvesh come about? Why do likes and dislikes come about? Someone tell, why do likes and dislikes come about?
Not accepting what it is, how it is.
That is told here, but what another way?
Desire, Swamiji.
No, what is the genesis of likes and dislikes?
Too much options.
No. You are missing the basic point.
Past impression.
Nope. Yes,
desire leads to action. Action leads to a result.
Good.
And the result.
Action performed with doership, with karta bhav, with kartrutva abhiman. In English, doership. This doership will always result in some like and dislike. If I am listening, I like the satsang, a lecture, or I dislike the lecture. You see? But where there is no kartrutva abhiman, where there is no doership, there is no doer of an action, there is no precipitation of raga dvesh. Understand, this is the root, and this is what Vedanta is, to dissolve this doer, to dissolve this ego, to dissolve this owner of all activity. See? Then one reaches the level of Dvaitam, the duality. When the world has stopped the Dvandva, which is in the outside world, the options of Rag and Dve have stopped precipitating. As long as likes and dislikes are there, Sukha Dukkha will be your norm. Joy and sorrow will be your experiences. But when Raga, Dvesh, likes and dislikes have subsided, joy, your oscillation between joys and sorrows, that will also subside. What is happening? Your mind is getting integrated. Your mind is becoming calm. The onslaught of likes and dislikes keeps agitating the mind. You keep running from pillar to post. I want this, I don't want this. I want this, I don't want this. I like this, so we run towards it. I don't like this, so we run away from that. So continuous running. Now the mind is not running once Ragdesh subsides. And then we become, and this you will experience if you are doing the Nama Japa. If you start with Vaikhari, Madhyama, by the time you reach Madhyama, you can watch this happening within you without doing anything. All you need is Shraddha. All you need is patience. All you need is to do the japa with bhav. And you will find that acceptance of the world as it is will automatically happen. The dissolution of raga dvesh, that will automatically happen. And now the third step, then one reaches the level of Dvaitam, the duality of aham idam. And this is a very clear stage which comes between Madhyama and Pashyanti. And what is it? That a japa jap sthiti, where the japa is going on in the mind and you are the watcher. You are the observer of the japa going on. Many times, even if we are not doing japa, we are building castles in the air, imagining, and suddenly we catch ourselves and you are watching. Then you catch, why am I wasting time in all these unwanted things? Because you became aware that you are the watcher and you are just imagining, it's not reality. But this becomes, when we are doing the Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti process, then this becomes a distinct experience that I am other than the japa that is taking place within the mind. It's as clear as I and you are separate to each other. That clear. And this happens at the Anahat Chakra. The distinction between the conscious principle and the matter principle becomes available. When the mind is too agitated, too restless, has too many options, is under the slavery of raga dvesh, till then this possibility that I am I am the consciousness and matter is separate to me, this option is not available. Even though it is always like that, but we are not available to it. This is incomplete knowledge. So slowly we are moving towards complete knowledge. Okay. By practicing the art of standing apart and being a witness, this Dvaitam also loses its grip. Meaning, as long as you stand apart, just like a mother does for her child, if the child is playing and he falls down, he cries. And natural response of the mother is to go and give attention to the child who has fallen. What happened? You hit the ground, as if ground is knowing. But that child becomes quiet. Once, twice, thrice. After that, the mom gets tired because she is not able to finish her job. So she learns a new trick. What is that? If I leave him crying, he stops crying quicker than when I go and take care of him or her. So she stands apart. She knows he has fallen. She knows the child is crying. She is attentive, but she doesn't indulge with the kid. And when the kid sees that mom is not giving attention, she's still busy with what she's doing, he makes the sound a little bit more loud. And then eventually he finds some other means to entertain himself and forgets crying. Same thing the mind also does. It will throw out some junk to only grab your attention. You stand apart. Now all that junk has been replaced with japa. And a japa is the way the mind is trying to take control. Even though it is purifying, but it is trying to take control. It will not allow you to go to sleep also at night. A japa sthiti. And if you get agitated, it has got its job done. If you start taking sleeping pills, he's the winner. That is not the way. If you stand apart, if you don't give attention, just like that kid, stop crying. If you stand apart, even this ajapajap will stop. Your attention should be who is watching. Your attention should not be on what I am watching. This is the difference, isn't it? Your attention should not be on the idam. Your attention should be on the aham. Who is the observer? I am the observer. Who is this? Ask once you have to ask, who am I? That's all. And then watch. You are watching. It's not that after you answer that question, you will come to observe. No, you are the observer. You are the questioner. And now allow the answer to the question, who is the observer, reveal itself. Because he is always revealing. He is a continuous. He is a khanda. See? And if your attention is towards yourself, then that japa which is going on, it can survive only when it gets attention. The crying of the child can continue only if mom gives the attention. Don't give attention, it will stop. Don't give attention to the mind, to the japa or the mind. The mind will stop agitating. What is its agitation? Before it was with regards to tamasic thoughts. Now it is with regards to rajasic thoughts. Before it was with regards to the objects outside. Now it is with regards to the objects within. And what is the object? The japa is the object. See, understand the principle. If you understand this, you will be so inspired to do the japa all the time and come to the conclusion, khatam karo yaar story puri. Doesn't take long. If you understand the principle correctly, clearly. This is the process. Meditation by the establishment of the center, madhya, and its gradual expansion is another potent sadhana. What is that? What does it mean? Expansion of the center. Center is this conscious principle. Center is this I. Now what is the expansion of this center? Once this recognition comes that if I don't give attention to the japa which is going on, the japa stops. Now expand. If I don't give attention to the eyes, the senses don't function. If I don't give attention to the child doesn't cry. If I don't give attention to the world cannot express or have an impact on me. In other words, I am the center, and whenever I give any attention to anything or anyone, then that they get activated. See? Another way of looking at it is, life is continuously pushing this center to become all-inclusive. So, as you were a child, you were born a buddhu, no brains. You did not know these are your parents, you did not know this is your sister, you did not know this is your body. And slowly, this I is programmed to believe that these are my parents, this is my body, this is my school, these are my clothes, these are my shoes, this is... And the I keeps expanding, and then it expands by including the going to school, it's absorbing the knowledge. Who? I is expanding. Before it was buddhu, now it is becoming intelligent. But it doesn't stop, then it grows, it wants to expand further. And how does it expand? It gets married, it includes another person into its definition. Then along with that person, their parents, their sisters, their brothers, their extended family, all of them included into my relations. That is what we use, no? My relations. My wife, my husband, my relations. So your I is expanding. Then you don't stop there. Life pushes you. Then you have children, 1, 2, 3, 4, cricket team. I is expanding even further. But individual usually stops here somewhere. Today they have become very miserly, only one kid. And what is the second one? Dog or a cat. So the status of their one child is equal to dog or cat. There is one family. Before they have a kid, that family, that young couple is practicing how to take care of a kid. For that they got a puppy. Is a human child equal to a puppy? Pathetic. So they are trying, they brought the puppy up, gave the milk to puppy, trained the puppy. Now that puppy, because it gets the food from the young couple, he is always tuk 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 tuk, wherever they are going, it is behind them when they come back from work. Is your child going to be going after you all everywhere? If you expect your child is going to behave like puppy, you are in for a big surprise. See? So expansion. Then as some people are able to drop, or they want to expand even further, so they become they include their community within the I. They identify with the community. See, every time wherever we go, oh, I am Gujarati, oh, I am Tamil, oh, I am from Andhra, oh, I am from Maharashtra. See, you want to belong to something. So when you say I am Marathi means, oh my God, so many millions people. Then I am an Indian, I am an Australian, I am an American. Again, billion people. Your identity, your I has expanded. I am Indian. 1.2 billion people I identify with. See, go further. I am a part of a human race. I am not part of the animal race. You have expanded to 8 billion people. I is expand. What we are trying to tell here is how I is expanding to include everything. The center is expanding. I am a human. See? And then we come to the scriptures, and the scriptures say, what? Om tat na tatra suryo bhati na chandra tarakam nema vidyado bhanti kutoyam agnihi tameva bhantam anubhati sarvam tasya vasa sarvamidam vibhati. You can keep expanding, no doubt. You can go to the universe, blah, then, but the scriptures say, hey, you alone are in the waking state, you alone are in the dream state, you alone are in the deep sleep state, you alone are in the samadhi. That means I is the common denominator and other experiences are coming and going. Then they go further. They say, who are you? Who is this I? I is that. Don't look for where it is, what it is, that it is expanding, expanding, expanding. Then when you are thinking of expanding, you need something to expand and express into, permeate into. But who are you? Na tatra suryo. You are the light of all lights. Even the sun is illumined by you. Even the lightning is illumined by you. Even the stars and moon are illumined by you. You are the source of all lights. Don't go, I am the sun also, I am the moon also. No, you are the source. Because of within you all these are already included, whether you accept it or not. They are bright, they are illumined, they are available only because you are. So your light is more powerful than their light. We are talking about expansion of the I, expansion of the center, the consciousness. So the center of everything is consciousness, and as this goes along, it doesn't need to start from this, because we think in the linear manner. We always think of the beginning and the end, conclusion. But in this contemplation, there is no the conclusion. You don't have to go through every aspect of creation, every individual aspect of this creation to pervade it with I. Because creation is infinite, relatively speaking. But when you come to that I am the center of everything, and you move in this direction, suddenly a critical point is reached and boom! In one go, that realization happens. And what is that? I am the center of the entire. Without me, the waking cannot happen. Without me, the dream cannot happen. Without me, the sleep cannot happen. Without me, the meditation cannot happen. Without the conscious principle that I am, scriptures have got no meaning. Without me, gods have got no meaning. Without me the consciousness, not as individual. Without me, the consciousness, sun, moon, stars, nakshatras, navagrahas, everything has got no meaning. I am, therefore they have their validity. This is taking the power back, because you have always been the most powerful. But imagining you are at the mercy of all these. This will lead to fearless existence, abhayam. And that is a prerequisite for realization. Fear is there only where there is duality. See? The center of everything is consciousness. Today in meditation it came. The center of everything is consciousness. So this center is without any circumference. Wherever I am, there the center is. This shift in disposition has to come about. This will only come about when we live a life free of likes and dislikes. Remember the first step. If that step is not brought about consciously, then the consequent steps will not happen. Unless, as long as we are buffeted by the world, we have complaints about the world, we have opinions about the world, we have something to do in this world, to change something in this world, consequent steps will not take place. You will not be even available to Ahamidam. You have to leave the world as it is. Paramatma is akhanda mandalakaram, that mandala, that circle which does not have a circumference anywhere, but which has a center everywhere. See how beautiful? Center without a circumference is a center everywhere. in the Buddhist tradition, they have these mandalas. And those mandalas, their mandalas are only talking about the cycle of creation, etc. But here, create a mandala, a center without a circumference. What mandal will you make? What shape will you make? You can't. But you can have a direct experience of this mandala, because that center without a circumference is I, the consciousness. And the moment this is realized, this is correct knowledge. The moment this is realized, then this center is everywhere. It is not at a particular location, at a particular time, in a meditation. No. It is 24/7, 365 days a year, free, pervading time, space, objectivity. Center everywhere. In fact, from this center's point of view, there are no limitations of space-time objectivity, because no circumference, no. That is why it has. If center is without circumference, then alone it is center everywhere. Center everywhere means there is no limitations. These are only words at the moment. You are appreciating it. But this can be realized. Mahatmas have realized this. We can also. Like a mad fellow in love, who thinks only of his partner or beloved, you fall in love with the mantra, fall in love with yourself. It's not selfish, don't worry. But not fall in love with yourself as the body. No. Fall in love with the mantra and let it take its own journey. But you have to begin. But which has a center everywhere. Let the thoughts focus on this center, the pure consciousness. So if continuously we are thinking, let those thoughts always remind us of the pure consciousness that I am. But our thoughts remind us how good mother I am, how good speaker I am, how good listener I am. Now I have to eat breakfast, now I have to take bath, now I have to give a lecture, now I have to do this. We are always associating the I with something else. For a change, associate the I with the I and see what happens. Yes, Swamiji, you have tried that. What happens? Sleep. Then remain asleep. The world will be less troubled by one person. Or consciously remain conscious when I is thinking about I. So this is the healthy way. What is the healthy way? When I is contemplating on I. When all the thoughts are contemplating on the I. Or you are having this disposition that without this I, I'm not talking about thought I. I'm talking about the consciousness that I am. And right now I'm consciousness, even though I'm using the words are coming out. The word consciousness is coming out from the mouth because it is an idea in the mind, but what it is representing is the true me. Word is not me. The word consciousness is not equal to me, because consciousness word comes and goes. But without me, the substratum, this word consciousness also could not come and express itself. So be attentive of that continuous principle, be attentive of that of that I without a thought, in spite of the thoughts. That's the name of the game. Now, make yourself available to that. Opportunity is throughout the day, whatever you are doing, whether you are listening, whether you are speaking, whether you are washing dishes, whether you are vacuuming, whether you are scolding, whether you are jogging, whether you are eating. Keep remembering. Because you don't remember, therefore, while eating, Brahmarpanam Brahmavi, before you study, Saraswati Namastubhyam, the moment you get up, Karagare Vasate Lakshmi. So, some way you remember that. Therefore, presence of divinity in every activity. So, these mantras are there. But you don't need, you may chant mantra, you may not, if you are with yourself. No need of any mantras. If they happen, they happen. Consciousness is not proven because of a mantra. Consciousness is self-existing. Consciousness is self-illuminating. It does not require any means. It is not that by doing japa you will realize. No, you are already of the nature of realization. Then what are you doing japa for? For removing the incorrect knowledge, incomplete knowledge. To dissolve the incomplete knowledge, the ignorance. You are not doing japa or any sadhana in order to prove that there is consciousness. Nope. You cannot realize consciousness. How can you realize consciousness? You are already that. How can man realize, how can husband realize man? He is already man. Without man, husband cannot express. How can wave realize water? It is already water. Then what has to do as a sadhana? That sadhana is not to realize. That sadhana is to remove the wrong conclusions about itself. That I was born, that I am going to die, that I want to realize, that I have to do sadhana, that all this has to, you have to start wherever. And all that process is only to dissolve the incomplete knowledge. See. Where is the location of this center? Where one thought has arisen and died, and the second is yet to rise, Kena Upanishad, in the junction of Laya and Vikshepa. So, our Ramana Maharishi says, Prana Bandhanat Leena Manasam. Wherever Prana Bandhanat, that is the juncture between the two breaths, in breath and the out breath. Keep your attention there, the mind will dissolve. This is a little bit gross exercise, but equally effective. Something subtler, the juncture between the two thoughts. One thought is coming, one thought is. So, first was one, second thought was thought, third thought was is. So when we do japa, because the repetition is of the same mantra, Ram, 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 the variety is not there. There is only one theme. So it's easy to catch. And if you are doing it with bhav, as we move from Vaikhari to Madhyama, Madhyama to Pashyanti, in between is ajapa jap, and if we are attentive towards ourselves, the japa will slow down. And as it slows down, you catch. You don't have to wait till ajapa jap. You can start. Keep your attention from the beginning. Even in Vaikhari, your attention should be what is that point from where the japa is beginning, the sound is emanating. What is that point where the japa is merging back into, the sound is merging back into. That is how you transcend Vaikhari. You don't transcend Vaikhari by continuously like a machine gun fire. Ram, 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 Ram. Nothing is going to happen. Your attention must be on the source, from where the mantra is coming and where it is merging back into. Then very quickly, doesn't take too long, you will go into Madhyama. Keep the attention there, you go into Pashyanti. Keep the attention, then you will be there for some time. Again, you come out of Pashyanti. Pashyanti is sleep. You come out of Pashyanti, then mantra is going on. Your attention still is on the what is the source of the mantra. Suddenly, if you are becoming attentive of that point, suddenly you will find you have bypassed Pashyanti. You have bypassed the deep sleep. And what happens? You transcend, you straight away go to Para. It's not that Vaikhari, Madhyama, Pashyanti. You don't have to go to Pashyanti. You bypass Pashyanti. If you are unaware of yourself, we talk about Pashyanti as Pashyanti only because there is Vaikhari and Madhyama. But if you are aware, then Vaikhari, Madhyama and straight to Para. Straight to Para because you are conscious. When you are unconscious, then Pashyanti. That is deep sleep state. But if you are awake, then no deep sleep. You are attentive. So our attention should be between at the juncture of one thought and the next thought. Now, how difficult is this? How many ways? Panchadashi also this thought came, Ramana Maharshi tells this thought, Yoga tells this thought, Upanishad also this thought comes. But we are not ready to practice, that is the problem. At that point, the mind is contentless. When our attention, and this is happening all the time, Baba. Even at this moment it is happening. Even at this moment it is happening. Now I stopped for 2-3 seconds just now. Was there any thought in your mind? No. Empty. And when I was saying even at this, so between the two thoughts, what is there? Is it emptiness? There is no content in the mind. What is the content of the mind? Thoughts. So between two thoughts, what is the content in the mind? Absence. Absence is not a thing. Absence is not an object. Absence is not an object of association. Absence of thought, non-availability of thought, non-expression of thought is called absence. And that absence is again, just like I was talking about Pashyanti, because we are not conscious, therefore sleep comes. Because our attention is on the thoughts, therefore non-expression of thoughts is equal to empty mind, nothing in the mind, zero mind. But there is someone, and that is the consciousness. So when our attention is on the ephemeral, on the coming and going of the thoughts, then we will say there is nothing. Our attention will be on nothing, and that nothing leads to fear. But when I say that if we go according to the sadhana that is there, and that is the correct way to pursue, and that is I am, therefore thought is. Now when there is no, if my attention is between the two thoughts, where one thought has gone and the next thought is beginning, what is there? No content, no thought. But I am still continuing. I have not gone out of existence. Story over. We don't need to go through the rest of the 600 pages. We have to make ourselves available to this or as many times as possible. This is called the nirvikalpa sthiti. Nirvikalpa. Vikalpa is options, content, thought. So between the two thoughts, is there a thought? No thought. So which means between every two thoughts, so many thoughts during the day you think, and between those two thoughts, so many times during the day you are in nirvikalpa sthiti. Oh my God. And we have created a special event called meditation to experience nirvikalpa samadhi. Understand the principle. It is not an event. Nirvikalpa samadhi is not an event. It is happening to you between every two thoughts. The moment you recognize, yes, you can do it on the seat of meditation, you can do it while walking, you can do anywhere. Be aware. Then you will bypass the nirvikalpa samadhi. Then what will happen? You will land up in sahaja samadhi, 24/7. Then whether waking, dream, sleep, whatever is going on in this creation, it will not corrupt your disposition as consciousness, which is all inclusive in nature, which is none other than the Brahman. See, even while I am talking or you are listening, you must be experiencing the silence within. At that point, the mind is contentless. Mind is contentless. And someone is observing that there is no content in the mind, there is no expression of thought. A contentless mind is Paramatma. Remember, the word contentless is coming because our attention was on contents. And what were the contents? Thoughts. So what is between the two thoughts? Absence of thoughts. But that absence is not an object which can be perceived, it is a byproduct. We talk about speed of light. We don't talk about speed of darkness. We talk about light. We don't talk too much about darkness. Why? Darkness is when light is not there, then darkness comes. So the truth is light. Truth is not darkness. Same way here. The absence is not something. The word for absence is nothing. Nothing is not a thing. to be perceived, to be experienced. A contentless mind is Paramatman. But what happens to many seekers? When the mind becomes quiet, they start imagining God, they become afraid, they start thinking empty mind is devil's workshop. Some idiot has given this thought. I think Britishers gave it to us. Empty mind is devil's workshop. No, empty mind is the abode of divine. That is what our Upanishads say. Empty mind is not devil's workshop. So change your orientation of your mind. You have to be alert to have, when you start doing japa, you become very careful what words come out of your mind, out of your mouth, what thoughts are entertained by the mind. Then we don't live at the default level. We are absolutely alert, vigilant, conscious of whatever is expressing. And while it is expressing, our attention is not on the expression but on the self. And this disposition comes that nothing wrong can come out of this mouth, or nothing wrong will come out of this mind. Because this mind is pervaded by the consciousness, and this pure consciousness is immaculate, it's pristine, it is Shuddha, Buddha. So when it is permeating the mind, and there's no doubt about that, then how can the thoughts appearing in the mind, which is permeated by the pure consciousness, how can unwanted thoughts come in that mind? Impossible. And thoughts themselves become the words. So because we don't accept ourselves as consciousness, so we are starting from outside, Vaikari, Madhyama and Pashyanti Para. So that we come to this conclusion that we are the consciousness without a center, without a circumference. See? At that point, a thought is not a thought. The seer seen difference is dissolved. In this way, the Madhya is discovered and expanded until one gets established in Yatha Bodha. Expansion of the center the center is very limited when it is gross. Center has expanded further, become more expansive as we come to Madhyama. It becomes even more expanded when we come to Pashyanti. It gets even more expanded when we come to Para. So, as the journey moves on from gross to subtle to causal to transcendental, the center is expanding. The center is expanding. And become the seeker comes to the correct knowledge, comes to the complete knowledge, not about the world, about himself, that he is the substratum, that he is all that there is, that he is all pervasive, not he as a person, but he as the consciousness. Consciousness is all pervasive. Yet another way of locating the Madhya is to focus attention at that point where the dream state has gone and the waking state is yet to come, when Vasanananda still lingers. So again, last week also in Upanishad also this thought came, before we go to sleep and after we wake up. These are the two doorways for us where when we are going to sleep, the vasana of sleep. Vasana is past impression. Vasana is you are entering into the subconscious. And as so you are not in the gross, you are not in the subtle, you are going into the causal. Causal is subconscious. And as you are entering into that, the gross and subtle have quietened down. And as they have quietened down, now question is, do you go into ignorance or do you become aware of the conscious principle who is observing that the gross disturbances have quietened, the subtle disturbances have quietened? And this is naturally taking place before you go to sleep, and this is naturally taking place when you wake up. So when you wake up, you have had a wonderful sleep, and the moment you wake up, the lingering of the quietness, the silence continues for some time. The mind is naturally quiet for 1 minute, 2 minutes, 5 minutes. That's why people want to continue sleeping till 10 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the afternoon. At that time, instead of being addicted to sleep, make it into an opportunity to come to the conscious principle, because mind is naturally calm. Thus, when the essential nature of one's own consciousness conscious being is discovered, then ignorance no more troubles that person. And ignorance, expression of ignorance is Vaikhari Madhyama Pashyanti Para. Expression of ignorance is waking, dream, deep sleep and meditation. These are all disturbances because you go in and come out of it. They come, they happen, they are a phenomena. They are not continuous. So change your position. You discover that you are the changeless one. You discover you are the permanent one. You discover that you are the center of everything. Of the good thoughts and bad thoughts. Of good desire, of desires, of likes and dislikes, of joys and sorrows, of health and disease, of past and future. You are the center. If you are not there, all these are not possible. Now find out what the center is. Why indulge in what is past and future? Why indulge in likes and dislikes? Find out what the center is, which is the permanent one. It has never abandoned you. Likes and dislikes abandon you. Today I like this, afterwards I might dislike. Today I dislike something, I might like. Today he is my enemy, the same person becomes friend after some years. Things keep changing. But I don't change. I is always the same. So don't go after the variety, go after the permanency. Accepting that we are the conscious, changeless principle in spite of all the change around us is realization. How does avidya trouble the jiva? Now, having told that we are the conscious, unchanging principle in spite of all the change, so the previous statement that I made is to the seeker. Seeker is a jiva, because even though he is the pure consciousness, he is not recognizing himself. Why is he not recognizing himself? Because his attention is on the changing. That is the mistake that the jiva is making, the seeker is making. And as long as we are obsessed with the changing, we'll remain in the loop. We'll never come out of the loop of the mind. Parijiti nameli avidya he zakali bandha mokshi ghali bandhoniya. Whether the ignorance, whether alive or dead, binds the jiva by bondage or freedom. Even the idea of I want to realize, I want to be liberated, nirvana, this is also bondage. Because it is at the thought level. Whether this avidya is alive in the form of ignorance or dead in the form of knowledge. Understand? It's alive in the form of ignorance, whereas incomplete knowledge. Or whether this avidya is dead in the form of knowledge, meaning intellectual knowledge, not abidance. Those who follow, remember the Ishavasya Upanishad, those who follow the karma marg, they enter darkness. And those who follow avidya, which is equal to karma, enter into darkness. Those who follow vidya, knowledge, they enter into deeper darkness. Same thought is here. So whether this avidya is alive in the form of ignorance or dead in the form of knowledge, it puts the jiva in the cage of bondage. So both knowledge and ignorance, they are coexisting. Remember, day and night are coexisting. Sukha dukh are coexisting. Heat and cold are coexisting. So same way here, avidya and gyan or knowledge, they are coexisting. And they are whatever, and wherever there is two, it is an expression of we have to go beyond it. It's the expression of ignorance alone. When the ignorance is alive, it puts the jiva in the bondage of limitations. When the ignorance departs, it leaves the jiva in the bondage of freedom. Bondage and freedom have meaning only with reference to each other. This is Shiva is Shiva only because there is Parvati. And Parvati is Parvati, and Parvati has got no meaning without Shiva. But what is the essence? Paramashiva. So I want freedom. Why? Because your focus is on the bondage. I want realization. Why? Because your attention is that you are not realized. But in the last half an hour, 45 minutes, 1 hour, what we explained, if that is understood, the principle is understood, then where is the bondage and where is the freedom? This idea of bondage and freedom will go out of your head. Then what? Then you have to just be. Be what? Be attentive to yourself. Therefore, मोक्षची बंद होए तरी मोक्ष शब्द का साहे अज्ञानाधरी त्राहे वाहुगी वात याची. He says, if the freedom is of the nature of bondage, if the freedom is of the nature of bondage, why do we call it freedom at all? Normally people don't think this way, no? See the beauty, don't forget, a realized master is putting words. It is his song. It is his penning down of his experience. If the freedom is of the nature of bondage, why do we call it freedom at all? The words bondage and freedom have meaning only in the kingdom of ignorance. Our question is also the same. That if the freedom is of the nature of bondage, why do we call it? Don't call it. Who asked you to call it? Don't fool yourself. All the words, expressions, concepts, ideas, convictions, expressions, thoughts, they are in the realm of, and within those expressions, bondage is another expression and freedom is another expression. Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka, Sampati, Mumukshutvam, all these are words only, no? Wherever there is a word, it is an expression. It is an expression of avidya, ignorance. And avidya itself is a word only. Avidya is a word. It's also expression of ignorance. And what is ignorance? What is ignorance? Someone.
Avidya.
What is it? Tell.
Avidya is avidya.
No. What is avidya? What is
Not being
ignorance?
alert, Swamiji.
Huh?
Not being alert.
Forgetfulness.
Forgetfulness.
Thinking, be in the body mind, Swamiji.
Okay. But in the vein of thought that we are taking, what is ignorance or avidya? That which does not exist.
Yes.
Shadow does not exist. Absence is, there is nothing, absence does not exist. Avidya does not exist. So freedom, bondage, liberation, everything is within the umbrella or the purview or the expression of avidya alone. And if avidya itself does not exist, there is a complete chapter on it in this Amrita Anubhav. If avidya itself does not exist, then how can bondage and freedom exist? Isn't it? Jnaneshwar Maharaj is waking us up to think outside the box. And what is the box? Our own convictions, our own ideas, our own dispositions, our own panchakoshas. Get out of it and see. Once I met one Mahatma, Thakur Maharaj. I had gone on a pilgrimage when I was living in Varanasi. From there, myself and one more friend of mine, we went to Calcutta. And there I had heard of this Thakur Maharaj. He was from Bangladesh. And he was living in some flat in some colony, and somehow I see wherever I go something happens, and I had his number, and I said, okay, we are staying at the Ramakrishna Mutt in Calcutta, and from there okay, let's call. So from the public phone booth we called, and somehow we got the number. Someone picked up and we said, we want to come and meet. We are two sannyasis from Varanasi. And so that old man Mahatma Ji came on the phone, Thakur Maharaj. He must have been 85, 90 that time. 2 times I met him. And first time he said, okay, you just tell the taxi fellow this is, and we didn't have the money for taxi also. So how to tell him that we can't take the taxi, we'll take, and we are repeating again and again. No, you tell us the bus number and we'll take the bus number. You know, the devotees were there. And he is telling them, no, tell them, take a taxi and come here. Tell them, take a taxi and come here. And we are thinking, no, tell us the bus number and we'll take the bus. And in the end, the person who was talking to us, he said, no, you take the taxi, don't worry, we will take care of that. And then we took the taxi and went there. The moment we entered his small flat, few devotees were there, made us sit down, water, coffee, some snacks, and we are eager to chat. And he is old man, 85. He came and sat there at the dining table, and for 3 hours, after having had our snacks, half an hour, everything was over, everything was ready, they had made it ready. And then we asked this question, what is Atma, what is pure consciousness? And I'll tell you, just like that time I could appreciate, yes, but not with the depth as it is here. Today I can. Every sentence that he uttered, every sentence was to establish the Atma, was to show that the Atma is. And we spent 3 hours with him. It was so thrilling, so thrilling. We came out of it as if we were on in the seventh heaven, you know. Such an experience. Whatever our doubts were with regards to karma and this and that and blah blah blah, you know, all knowledge from books. Yes, Atma is good, Atma is there, but is karma not important? Is bhakti not important? This is the language that he used. Every verse is taking you back to the conscious principle. And once you recognize that everything that is an expression, and all expression is nothing but an expression of ignorance. All expression, limited expression, conditioned expression is an expression of ignorance. And what about ignorance? That is also an expression only. Word avidya is an expression. And what does the word denote? That which does not exist. So that means its child, its grandchild and its great grandchild, all of them don't exist. Then there is nothing to communicate. Then there is nothing to pursue. Then there is nothing to reject. We come to the same. Accept everything, reject nothing, retain nothing. Retaining nothing is contentless mind. See, naturally our minds are quiet right now. Thakur Maharaj. If you say freedom is bondage, then why is the word freedom used at all? Why do you use a word to indicate what is not? The teacher replies, the freedom, liberation has meaning only in the house of ignorance. Only those who are ignorant talk about bondage and freedom. And what do the wise do? I am asking. If those only those who are ignorant talk about bondage and freedom, then what do the wise do?
Silent.
Huh?
Silent.
But we hear Mahatma speaking. Nisargadatta Maharaj could not stop speaking.
Without doership, they do Swamiji.
They just be. They are not against limitations, because from their point of view they are pervading. They are all that there is. See? So whether there is silence at the mental level or there is a flurry of thoughts at the mental level, their disposition doesn't get corrupted, because silence and no silence both are expressions of ignorance alone. So Vaikhari and Madhyama is absence of silence, and Pashyanti is silence. Isn't it? And who is a Mahatma? Who is beyond? Who's beyond it? Beyond these expression, manifestation or unmanifestation? That I am. That is my true nature. The unaffected, the unchanging, the undisturbed. And in this way, Jnaneshwar Maharaj it's a thrill to study the experience of Jnaneshwar Maharaj, and even a greater thrill to read the commentary on it by our Swamiji. Just absolute magical. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shantihi. Harihi Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. Just sit.